Today on the Cameron Journal podcast, we are joined by Al Kushner. He has written a new book called, and I have the title here, The AI LinkedIn Advantage: Unleash the Power of AI and Dominate the Competition. And it is launching on July 4th. And we're going to be talking about LinkedIn and AI and all this and how it all kind of works together because obviously AI is a hot topic. It's changing a lot of things in society. I have been doing some LinkedIn AI networking of my own. So I'm excited to hear more about it. So welcome to the Camera Journal podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, well, why don't we begin right from the beginning? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your book?
Well, as mentioned, I am an author of my book, and I've been on LinkedIn at least 15 years, I would say. And I really learned a lot through the time I spent on there because of so many changes that occurred on LinkedIn, particularly nowadays with videos becoming very much popular. I find the platform to be a great way to connect with people and become a thought leader, which was really what was my book about. So hopefully, it'll make a difference for people.
Absolutely. What inspired you to write this and try to help people do that?
Well, I had a lot of clients who were really asking me the same questions as far as how to create content, how to become a thought leader, what resources available, and I decided why don't I just put it into a book, and let people know about the things that I learned and share my knowledge with others who can value and benefit from the techniques I use on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah. LinkedIn is I don't know if you feel this, but LinkedIn has kind of been a little bit of a dark horse as far as social media goes. They have people usually go in there for job postings. A lot of times, they may or may not have their profile filled out. People may or may not keep up with it. But I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed in the last probably couple years, all of a sudden LinkedIn has crept in. Like you start seeing screenshot posts on other platforms like Twitter and Facebook and all this sort of thing. So it's kind of gone from the, oh yeah, that's the like job posting board for business to now it's sort of become the professional hub online. Do you think do you look at it the same way as I do?
Well, yeah, I mean, ever since Microsoft took over, the platform has grown exponentially to become really much a player in the social media category, particularly for those who are, either looking for work or for those who are, self-employed entrepreneurs who are looking to make connections with people to grow their business. It's a platform for people who are, serious about, making quality connections and becoming, connected with people who are, their target audience. You can't find a better platform than that.
No, absolutely. And I found it interesting how for the longest time, especially like in the mid 2010s, like people just weren't kind of paying attention to it. I do think the Microsoft acquisition was really good for them. It gave them a lot of resources and money, but now there's and I imagine your book is a lot about this. There's now this whole new thing for business owners, seeking services, buying services, connecting with others, making those business connections. It's just yeah, it's now a completely different game.
Yeah, it's been a big game changer, and I'm benefiting from a lot of the connections I'm making nowadays that years ago were unheard of. So, and that's also thanks to artificial intelligence, helps make content creation so much more easier to do than ever before.
No, that is certainly true. So what when it comes to helping you become thought leaders on LinkedIn and using AI, what give us a base outline of what you recommend people do? Is it AI networking? Is it just content creation? What's the, kind of best practice on that?
Well, first thing, you got to get your house in order, which means optimizing your profile. So you really got to take the time because before you do any outreach, you really need to know is, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So if you don't focus like a headshot, for example, making it professional looking, or at least have it updated, that's really going to make a difference. a background that really conveys what you're trying to come across, as opposed to having some generic background. Have something a little more informative that lets people know what you're trying to offer. If you're offering services, these are things to look at. Also, look at the headline you have. Find out things that are more able to be searched. For example, if someone's looking to be a guest on a podcast, for example, you can have a podcast host, for example, or other things that kind of showcase some of your talents. So these are just, off the top, some examples that I kind of share with people who I work with as far as how to make more impactful profile, because that's going to make a difference. Because as I mentioned, you have to have something that looks professional if you want to be trusted as a professional. So that really makes a difference. And I always encourage people to put any qualifications, whether it's not just education, but any awards that have been won, if you've done any volunteer work or you're part of any association. And what's also interesting is joining groups. You can actually join a lot of groups on LinkedIn, and I'm part of 20 groups on LinkedIn, and active, at least post once a week just to create an awareness. But what's good about it is that if you're part of a group and you want to connect with someone, sometimes that can make a difference of you getting that connection accepted because you're part of the same group. So I always encourage people to be, groups that you want to be part of. That really makes a difference. So that's just off the top of my head. I've got a lot more to say.
No, 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 that's very helpful. Um, no, that's really good. Um, what did you do in business or professionally before you decided to write this book?
Before that,
Yeah.
I was in insurance sales, and I've written some other books prior to that, focusing on Medicare, for example, for a lot of
Oh,
retirees. And my book
yeah.
actually won an award uh, in that category for nonfiction. And this book actually I have right now is also coming up for an award. Hopefully, I'll get a good opportunity to be awarded, but only be hopeful. But what I like about, when I started in the business, being in sales, it just kind of helped me in my own marketing efforts and over to feel that, I can, become better at what I do. So I've learned over time that, you always have to be learning. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, for example, and I make my car a university on wheels, because the fact is that there's a lot of things you can listen to. So I enjoy listening to audiobooks, enjoy listening to podcasts, that are going to enlighten me, inform me. Like your show, it really provides innovative information from the leading experts. And you really need to be on top of things. Otherwise, you get left behind. So that's why I enjoy it's a lifelong learning experience. So I look forward to learning more.
Well, no, no, that is very true. I think it's very easy. I don't know if you found this, but I think it's a lot very easy for people to, you know, when they're in a role or a company, life gets busy, things get routine. And then as we're finding out now, AI comes along, whatever comes along, and all of a sudden things are in flux. And things are happening. And I think people can get a bit caught off guard if they haven't kind of been paying attention to what things are going on. And how, it's just like with AI coming into business now, it's really striking and hitting people who thought they were relatively safe and immune from such things. And that is turning out not to be the case. Um, and so that it is very good to keep kind of stay up and be informed and all this type of thing. um if someone is getting started on LinkedIn and trying to build some new connections or whatever have you, what are three things they can do to get started?
Well, again, optimize your profile. You need to really have your house in order. So you should have a profile that professional. Obviously, a portrait headshot would be ideal. Work on a background image. Include any of your most recent jobs that you've had. Also, work on a headline that's going to be eye catching to whoever you want to connect with. I would also recommend, if you want to become a thought leader, is work on recommendations. Now, a lot of people, for example, they set up their profile and they set it and forget it, and that's it. They think they're all done. But when I look at people, for example, and they have, I don't know, don't even have any recommendations or one some years ago, I kind of get a little suspicious of who they say they are, because it's all about third party endorsements. You want to add credibility as a thought leader. You have to have the ability to say, I've worked with this individual, or this individual recommended me. So you need to work on providing that trustworthy appearance, and having recommendations are crucial to any profile before you do any outreach. I think would be essential, and it's not that difficult to get, especially if you're starting out and maybe you've worked with someone, or employer, or was a client. I always ask them, if you can spare some kind words, and a lot of times people are receptive to that, which is a good thing.
No, no, absolutely, absolutely. This is kind of a funny one, but when it comes to premium, do you pay for premium every month? 'Cause it's kind of expensive. It's $100.
Well, I think it depends on your situation. If you're, entrepreneur, self-employed, I think Sales Navigator, which is a step beyond premium, does give a lot of rich features. What I like about one of the features is that it lets you know who's looked at your profile recently, so you can kind of see if you have a person that you want to connect with. They looked at your profile, maybe there's an opportunity to connect with that individual. There are more advanced features on Sales Navigator, including who's active on LinkedIn, because a lot of times people are not really active. And if you're connecting with someone, sometimes they may have not been on their profile for months or years. So that tells you in that program that, if someone's active on LinkedIn, Sales Navigator will define that within the last 30 days and give you an opportunity to reach out to an individual, and maybe comment on a post that they recently posted. So,
Yeah. Oh, no, no, absolutely. Yeah, and have you ever used any of the AI networking tools? I've used a couple. I'm using Zopto right now, and it is out busy networking away and doing some of that hard work. Have you ever used one of those before?
well, when it comes to automation on LinkedIn, and if you're using things that are so-called bots, they kind of frown against that. So I'd advise not to do that if you're doing that on LinkedIn, because that may end up making your account possibly closed as a result. So LinkedIn doesn't like that ability. Maybe other platforms may be more receptive to that, but I would not recommend doing that on LinkedIn for any outreach.
No, I mean, fair enough. Well, that's why I asked because it is some yeah, I've heard that but heard that before, and but there's also a dozen and one of them for sale, from membership and all those type of things. So it's always good to just keep the conversation, on on those sorts of topics. What do you think about LinkedIn newsletters?
Oh, they're essential. I think it's crucial for any type of thought leadership. If you create content at least once a week, you'll have the ability to get people to subscribe to it. And when you do post your newsletter, not only will it go on LinkedIn, but also reach out to their in-mails as well as their emails accounts. And a lot of times bypassing spam filters, and because of the credibility of LinkedIn, that really makes a difference of getting a reach that is probably more than if you send out from your own corporate account or Gmail account. So it gets a lot more traction, I would say. So having newsletters is great. You can do up to 5 newsletters on LinkedIn. I recommend maximizing on that and maybe just focusing on different aspects of your field. For example, I have a newsletter that caters to accountants, one that's for attorneys, one's for financial planners, one's for insurance agents. So these go out every week, and it gets a lot of eyeballs reading, and certainly you'll get a lot more people interested in what you have to say.
No, I love how you've segmented your audiences like that. I did start doing an exclusive LinkedIn newsletter last fall, which is it's different. I usually offer journalism services and business trend services to business owners. So I've started to push out that content exclusively on LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn newsletter is different than the general Cameron Journal newsletter, which sign up cameronjournal.com/newsletter. But it is an exclusive and just does business trend stuff and all this type of thing. I was surprised at how fast it grew. Um, I literally started from zero and immediately popped up to a couple hundred people within a couple months. It didn't take very long. I think even by like month two. And I only publish every 2 weeks. Um
Yeah.
But yeah, I was quite surprised. I also had a couple post feeds go viral on some subjects. I got like 25,000 impressions on a couple things, and that definitely drove a lot of people to the newsletter as well. So it was very interesting. And I was just surprised at how fast it grew and how excited people were, for that. And so I haven't even been in my reach outs to people, I haven't even been focused on like, oh, go to this website or oh, book a call with me. It's been check out the newsletter. Because if I have you there, then I have a chance to sell to you over time and build trust and build a relationship that way. So I've really actually just been kind of like, hey, if you're on LinkedIn, here's what I'm doing. It's on the newsletter, get your business trends, report delivered right to you sort of thing. And so it's been a great way to, kind of bring new business people into the Cameron Journal ecosystem. So
Yes, good idea. And like I said, with platforms like ChatGPT, you can always create content that would expand your reach in terms of things to think about, and maybe send something once every 2 weeks, once a week, and also maybe develop separate newsletters for different segments of your business, which could be really amazing, I would say, because of the
yeah.
you can really do be very creative with your niche, which is what I've done.
Yeah, I think the next one I may want to do is one specifically for writing, sort of thing that I've contemplated doing something like that because I know there are a lot of people who have a lot of interest in writing or doing a book or whatever have you, and they don't know how to start. And I have writing courses, but it doesn't really fit with my business trend. So I have thought about starting, one just about writing, and so your audience segmentation has now really got me thinking about that. Like, oh, I might really have to do that now. Get
There you go.
more, yeah, get more busy about that.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of my listeners listen to me in the car on the way to work. If there was one thing they could do today while they're listening to this to kind of fix up their LinkedIn in terms of optimizing their profile, what's the most important thing to kind of get right on your LinkedIn profile?
Get a headshot, professional. All right.
Mhm.
You want to look good and you want to be representing yourself. Something recent within the past 6 months is ideal. And there's no excuse not to do it. I mean, you can find, professional photographers, 50, $100 at best, but that'll last you several years. And it's really amazing how it makes a difference in terms of getting the ability to be accepted by people because of that simple act, because that's something that people kind of really neglect. They don't really take advantage of that. So look at the features like Canva, which helps create graphics. You can work on a background photo image on LinkedIn, which can make a difference. And some of the templates are really amazing. So I really take advantage of that. So again, before you do any outreach, and I know everybody's tempted to jump the gun and do things,
Yeah.
get working on it, but you got to get your house in order. You got to get these things, the basic things done, so you get your profile optimized. And that once you do it, then do an outreach. And it could be as simple as, whoever you're following, commenting on their particular post that they've done, and do something a little more than thanks for sharing. Do something more about, great idea, or read what they're saying, and be authentic and reply back to that, saying that, maybe they can elaborate more on it, or perhaps something that was they identify with, and that they could share their experience of that particular influencer's post. So these are just examples that you can use once you get your profile optimized, is to do an outreach and make a difference in growing your network.
Absolutely. Do you do a lot on LinkedIn Voices? Do you respond to those prompts a lot?
As far as like people sharing their voice.
Well, no, so it's this thing. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's this thing in LinkedIn where they will have a prompt to ask a question about something, usually within your expertise. Mine is marketing, comms, and PR, so it's always something in that. And what they will, what deals like, oh, you've been invited to answer this question. People will have left other answers, and you leave your own. And if you do enough and it gets enough views, you get to be like a voice in that niche. And there's a lot of, kind of the bigger accounts, bigger players, they'll say on their profile like top voice on LinkedIn for whatever thing. And I was wondering if you had ever spent any time answering those, because it's quite an involved process. So I don't do that many, but it does seem like it could be interesting if one put some time into it.
Well, certainly it doesn't hurt, I would say, if you make the time to do that. But it's if the opportunity presents itself, by all means, do it. I mean, it's fine. I've done those in the past, and if I get something that looks within my expertise, I'll certainly share my thoughts on it. I think the if you want to really move the needle on LinkedIn is post videos. Okay, that's going to really make a difference.
No, I would so the shorts, the full news hour is too long for LinkedIn, but the shorts from the Cameron Joel News Hour from interviews all get posted on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So this will do very well. And we've the business ones always do very well. The last week, we're recording this in June, it won't come out for a while, but we had Anthony Winning, and he had written a book on marketing, and those did anytime we have the interview of the week is business related, I always know it's going to be a great week on LinkedIn. And not so great on Facebook and Twitter, but it will be a great week on LinkedIn for numbers. Yeah, the short video thing is really important. One of the things I'm also working on is doing because I do business trends and whatnot. I'm also working on doing an exclusive LinkedIn workshop event. So, and I'm getting my slides together for all of that, and all that sort of thing. But yeah, that's kind of going to be my next thing. And yeah, there's a lot of people doing a lot of video. We have a couple past guests like Megan Daughter, who does a lot of video. Other people along the way have done a lot of really great stuff. And so yes, video is definitely quite powerful, especially if you're trying to get into thought leadership, content creation, all this type of thing.
Yeah. And
it's very
it's great for
powerful.
posting in groups because if you want to set yourself apart, you post in groups because nobody really does videos in groups at all. It can
Yeah.
really raise your awareness. I mean, I've seen the results of the views, and that's been incredible. And what's great about video is that it gets also automatically accepted into the group. Unlike a post where sometimes you got to wait to get reviewed. For some reason, the algorithm just loves videos and they push you right through. It's really incredible.
Yeah, no, that's quite impressive. It's although I do kind of have to wonder, it's kind of a side personal note. How does someone who's in such a nice, steady business like insurance decide to start getting busy on LinkedIn?
Well, it's very simple because it's a natural transition because, being in sales and marketing, and my referral sources happen to be, attorneys, CPAs, financial planners, and it just seemed like a natural transgression to go into something compared to so-called traditional types of networking, which normally would require you to go to a trade show or a convention where you have to travel. LinkedIn brings it right back to you from home. So it makes it so more convenient to do things, especially nowadays, when COVID came around, it was really hitting a lot of businesses hard, and LinkedIn was really growing during that time period because people were at home and, looking for things to do, and Zoom become very popular as a result of that. So it's been tremendous growth, I would say, because of that situation.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and now there's, the whole network is your net worth sort of thing. Having a big expensive network of people who like you, maybe want to do business with you, or maybe need you in future, or offer product services, find jobs, opportunities, that nowadays, especially with the old-fashioned way of, find a job posting, apply to the listing, all this type of thing, that is near as I can tell, about moribund. Um, a lot of people are really struggling with that. Now it's all about that personal connection. And people who are getting jobs right now tend to be like, "Oh yeah, I knew somebody," or "My friend was able to get me." And it's all become very on a personal connection, which I think is um maybe not great for society, but certainly wonderful for one. It's certainly a reason to spend time on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, it's great. Imagine you can meet so many people, beyond your geography that you would never have done through any other platform because of you know, the millions of people who are on the platform itself. I think 900 million or something, maybe more.
Yeah.
It's incredible how it's grown since its infancy. So it's definitely a way to connect and create yourself as a thought leader if you use it the right way.
Yeah, I'm so yes. Or I like to just getting networking with people in the industry and not having to necessarily travel for all of that. And especially nowadays with travel budgets being squeezed and all this type of thing, it's really the next best option.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of organizations across the country that normally I would have to travel to, and I, create a Zoom meeting, and all of a sudden, I'm getting, a lot of these speaking opportunities never had before because of the connections I made on LinkedIn, which is amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this is the part of the show where we do plugs and we find out where we can buy the book and go with you online. So why don't you let us know where we can do all of that?
All right. Well, get the book. It's available on Amazon as well as other fine retailers. July 4th is the paperback version coming out. If you're an audio listener, check out Spotify. We have also available for those who prefer listening, which I do myself.
Right.
Spotify is available, I think, Audible, possibly. It all depends on, the distributors, but definitely on Spotify, it's available for pre-order, which you can do. If you want to reach out, I have a website, linkedvantage.com, where you can find a lot more resources. I have even free ebooks you can download available for your listeners, learning how to optimize your profile and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy
Yeah.
to connect with you.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. One of us added the other over the weekend. Which was a lot of which was a lot of fun. And you gave me my first endorsement I've had in like years at this point. So that was really lovely. So
Oh, I'm
thank
going to give
you.
you a recommendation after we finish this, okay? So
No, no,
get
thank you
ready.
very yeah, no, I haven't had any in so long. So thank you. I appreciate that. But well, this sounds like a great opportunity and a wonderful book. We'll look forward to it on July 4th. Thank you so much for coming on the Cameron Journal podcast.
Thank you, Cameron. I appreciate the opportunity.
That's all for this episode of the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Visit us online at CameronJournal.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I love to talk to my followers and listeners, so please feel free to get us on social media at Cameron Cowan on Twitter, and we'll see you next time on the Cameron Journal podcast.